I can confidently say that the anxious avoidant loop of yearning and push-pull and this was one of the most addictive things that I ever experienced. And I chased it and I chased it and I chased it. And I didn't even know that I was doing it. I didn't even know that on some level I was seeking that, even though on the surface level it felt horrible and broke and shattered my heart so many times. If you keep ending up attracting people who are inconsistent, emotionally distant, have walls up, pull away, or generally avoidant, even when you meet someone and you think, oh my gosh, he's actually different, or oh my gosh, he's actually emotionally intelligent, and then 6 months later turns out still avoidant, I promise you don't actually have bad taste in men. There's just something a bit deeper in your subconscious that is running on autopilot that you don't see right now exactly, that is magnetizing you to those men, that is making those men feel like the right choice, that is making them feel different, that is making them feel magnetic. And so the real on this is that we seek what is familiar, which means on some level, from childhood or teenagehood, you have a blueprint that says that this is what love is. This is what love feels like. And so yes, this is where the attachment systems come into play. This is where anxious attachment comes into play. This is where, on some level, you learned as a small girl that love meant inconsistency. That's just how it goes. And this can happen to us in the most innocent of ways. Let's say you had a father who was super busy, just had a really demanding career, and he was working really hard to provide for the family. So he would get up early, and maybe he left the house at 7:30 before you were really even out of bed, and he went to work, and he came home at 5, so he was there in the evenings, but then he was working on getting the grass cut and taking care of the house, and he needed to relax and take care of himself too, so then he would watch the news at night and maybe have his tea or maybe read his book and go to bed. And there wasn't a lot of emotional connection time with you. Maybe he didn't really have the space to come to your school things, your theater plays, or your sports, but if you look back as an adult, you go, well, he had to work for us. He was providing for our family. He's the reason we had food on the table. Logically, you understand that he didn't abuse you necessarily. He didn't do something terribly wrong. But the little girl, that little child, did not get her emotional needs met from the masculine side of things. So she didn't get that connection. She didn't get presence. She didn't get support or validation, maybe. And obviously your dad's acting through some of his own patterns, and maybe he's projecting and conditioning to you or you and your siblings that you should behave a certain way or be a certain way or achieve a certain thing or choose a certain career. So now it's not like we had some bad man doing bad things. However, those needs still were severely not met. And so innocently and without knowing, what we are going to do is we're going to keep attracting people that feel kind of like that, in that weird, like you marry your dad thing, you know? We attract people that feel like that on some level. Obviously, you're not consciously trying to do it, right? This is all happening subconsciously. And then we're trying to close the loop with them. Well, maybe I'll get the emotional needs met here. Maybe I'll get that presence and that depth here. But we are totally playing a losing battle because we are magnetized to the thing that feels familiar, but we're trying to get our need met from someone that won't meet it. This is like a kind of sick, twisted thing of being human, right? This is like a sick psychological trap, and why can't we just attract the healthy love that we're actually craving on some level? And it's often because it doesn't feel good in our body yet. It doesn't feel safe in our body yet. And so what I hear from a lot of the women that I work with, which are really like capable, let's put you in the high achieving category, wonderful women, is that when there is a man who is here with you, oh, I want to take you out, I want to do this, I want to know you, I want to be close to you, it doesn't feel that great in the beginning. It feels a little needy, it feels a little nice guy, it feels a little too much. He's too available. And so sometimes that can be the case. And I'm not saying you need to go date the nice guy that's been, what's the word, not fawning over you, but like pining for you for years. It doesn't have to be like that, but there is a middle ground where we no longer feel attracted to the avoidant, emotionally unavailable person who truly cannot hold you at the end of the day and truly cannot meet your needs. And that overly needy other side where maybe that guy is actually anxious in his own right. There's a middle ground where there's safety, there's health, there's boundaries, there's communication, there's repair, all of this actually beautiful stuff. And when you retrain your nervous system, emotionally unavailable no longer feels correct because you actually spend time feeling how bad it really feels, feeling how bad those closures feel, feeling how bad it feels when someone's not present with you. Once you start to acknowledge that on some deeper levels and into your body and into your nervous system, it just won't feel attractive anymore. And I've had so many liberating moments with this, with guys that I thought I will never get over them, and it's 2 years later, I'm still thinking about this person, and I could be whatever. Like, it really plagued my mind. And then doing my inner work around it and doing somatic work around it and really being on my own journey simultaneously. And then I would run into them again and just be like, whoa, no, oh my gosh, no. And seeing how I had put them on this pedestal and sort of painted this picture in my mind of how great they were. And then when I was face to face with them again, actually feeling them, feeling their energy, feeling how they interacted with me, feeling how they made me feel, it just wasn't there anymore. And it just freed me from that because I had done a lot of growing and a lot of work. And so this is completely available to you. And yes, you can still have butterflies and chemistry, and it doesn't have to be this boring thing. So maybe you've listened to other podcasts or YouTube channels or whatever in the same category of healing anxious attachment. And sometimes the advice is to date boring people. And that's okay. There's definitely validity in that. In the practice is feeling yourself with different types of people. So yes, I would for sure give someone the advice if they're dating the same type of man over and over who's, sometimes we find there's like this one category of unavailable men who specifically don't really have their career sorted yet. And for a man, top priority is career and like being able to feel like they can provide for themselves and someone else in a lot of cases. I'm not going to say all of them. So if he doesn't have that sorted, he's not going to prioritize getting into a relationship. He can think you're the coolest girl ever. And on some level, his body is going to say, no, we need to focus on career. So if you keep attracting these guys who haven't quite got it there with their career, really deep in their art or really deep in their passion or building a startup business or whatever they're up to, it is going to end up being the same loop for you. So that's a bit of a yellow flag to look for. In any case, the reason that I say that is if you notice you attract men in similar category, then yes, it is a good practice to go on a date with someone you would never go on a date with, that you would not normally, let's say, match with on social media, just to feel yourself in their presence. And it might feel good and it might feel bad. It's just an experiment. And dating does get to be an experiment, especially when you're learning to relate to people and have different relationships. Because if you've always had that anxious avoidant relationship, you're going to need to experience how it really feels for you to date someone who is secure or date someone who is available. And it's a practice. And unfortunately, it is rampant in our society that women have low self-worth, that we put ourselves really low, that we don't speak nicely to ourselves, the body dysmorphia and the eating disorders and the not enough and not enough and not enough. And so there's almost always a piece of that for healing. And being able to touch, maybe you've had this experience before, maybe not, to touch a place within yourself that is true self-acceptance, self-love, self-compassion, and worthiness is it is something you have to go find if you've never felt it before. And my favorite way to reach that with people is through somatic therapy. So you can look for a somatic therapy facilitator. You can join me in becoming her, and you'll get access to a lot of tools around self-trust and connecting to your needs and just on a nervous system level, creating safety in the body. And those are all the things that point to having a deep level of self-worth. If we are in scarcity, if we don't feel safe in our body, if we don't feel safe on this planet, it's going to be really hard to create secure, healthy relationships because you are going to be seeking someone to make you feel safe. And that's a pretty high risk lane because they're not always going to be able to make you feel safe. And they're not always going to be able to meet your needs. So we do have to go on that journey of sort of meeting that for ourselves and seeing how inherently lovable, inherently valuable you are just by being born. And so often when we have the anxious attachment system, there are some layers of not feeling worthy of being chosen in the way that you say that you want. And maybe some layers where you wonder if you're even deserving of love. Layers where you feel alone or, as I was saying before, not enough. And we have to go in and meet these places within ourselves with love and compassion and patience. And it's a new muscle that most of us didn't learn how to flex. We learned how to push, we learned how to perform, we learned how to people please, we learned how to do the right thing and try and check the boxes and try and be the perfect friend and get it all right and be a good listener and whatever it is. And still, we're left with this void of, am I enough and why am I not being chosen? And that's the healing journey of this, because moving from anxious attachment to secure attachment is a healing journey. It just is. Not every personal development journey is healing work, but this is healing work. And it's what I love to do, and what I devote a lot of my life force and energy to, supporting the women in becoming her with doing. It's really powerful and liberating and actually so beautiful, even though it might feel heavy or intimidating in this moment. It makes you the radiant, magnetic woman that you want to be. So ultimately breaking this pattern of attracting emotionally unavailable men as a general category, emotionally unavailable, avoidant, not ready for a relationship, does not happen in your mind. It does not happen in some strategy. It's really going to happen on a deep level in the body and in the nervous system, which means it happens before the relationship even starts as well. And it happens by being in a practice of coming into your body, feeling the difference between what is my boundary and what is not. What is him and what is me? How do I actually feel when I'm with him? Where am I dissociating? Where am I fawning? Where am I people pleasing? When you can track your energy, you become a freaking alchemist wizard. And it's cool. And it's a human skill set that I think everyone should know, to really be able to be the human that you are and access all the gifts that you have and express them without collapsing, without becoming small. This work is the inner work, and it's what's going to ultimately help you break this pattern for life. And if you're really serious about this and you're like, husband, I'm going for husband, or I am going for feeling my most secure self in my relationship, then to me, inner work, somatic work, subconscious work is the tool. Trust me, I wasted 2 years reading books and trying to figure it out and still attracting avoidant men. And then I found somatic therapy, changed my life, made me secure. Then I trained in somatic therapy because I knew it was such a game changer. And so whether you find another somatic therapy facilitator or join me in becoming her for 50 plus somatic practices that you can start right away, live workshops, live Q&As with me, this is the journey that you are going on if your goal is to become secure, attract secure, amazing, healthy men who really want the best for you and show up for you and are deep with you and all the things. My husband now is completely different in so many ways than the men that I dated before, and also the same in many ways. And I'm going to save that for another episode because this is getting longer than I wanted it to. So I hope this was supportive. If you're watching on YouTube, please interact with this video. Give a little thumbs up if it was helpful for you. If you're listening on Spotify, please leave a comment. I would just love to hear from you on Spotify. They make it so easy to comment. It's kind of like a social media feed. And if you're on Apple Podcasts, then I would really appreciate a review of the show as well if it's been supporting you. Okay, sending you my love, and I'll see you in the next one. Mwah.